Eli Duke is our next speaker. Eli is Nate's little brother by 4 years.
Yeah.
He was in 8th grade when we were seniors, so I was never actually in school with him. But after meeting Nate, going sledding, and I eventually made it over to the Duke house after a few months and met this little guy who was, about half as tall but the same size head. And he was even more of a nerd than he is now. And we would watch Nat Geo TV and cooking shows and stuff. And are you going to talk about Ballisticus?
No.
Okay. So Nate and our other friend Matt used to really bully Eli because they knew they could push his buttons to the point where he would just go ape shit and totally just 0 to Hulk smash in 15 seconds. But they treated it like a nature show. Here we have an Eli's Ballisticus in the wild. He's just eating some of whatever. So Eli is going to give us, this is his 3rd time here. He spoke at the first one and then an update at 2.
Yep.
And then here again at 5. Hey, buddy.
Hey, everybody. At the first Farmhouse, I thought it was really cool that, forget, maybe it was the last speaker was saying harvest. Is that you? Harvest and thrive. That Shane wanted to do this thing, but he didn't feel like he had to go reach out too far. He could just go to his close friends and, see if they have interesting things to talk about. So the first Farmhouse was a lot of his close friends. And so he asked me if I would speak about my job, which at that point was doing seasonal work in Antarctica. And so I came and I talked about it, and it was fun, and I talked about working down there and traveling and the whatnot. And I did 4 summer seasons there, which is October to February. And it was a lot of fun. It was very interesting, but I felt like in the end I wasn't creating anything very lasting. You go there and you work and you come home and you see some friends and you leave again and you're not building anything. And so for me, after doing 4 seasons of that, I felt like I need to, one, sort of disconnect from the Antarctic program, because I know people that go years and years and years and never break out of that cycle. And also that I needed to build something a little more tangible, a little bit more lasting. So I had been living kind of in the Seattle, Portland area in between seasons, and my brother had just moved to Portland, and so I thought that would be a good place. And it really has. It's been very wonderful, sort of reconnecting, and there's sort of the grass is always greener. People would see the lifestyle I was living and say that's amazing, but I would see the lifestyle that people were living where they had friends around all the time and had weekly little gatherings or meetups or potlucks or whatever, and I was craving that sort of thing. And then at one point I found myself at a bonfire with, I think he was a National Geographic photographer, talking about traveling, and he was saying, right in the middle of me trying to figure out, do I want to keep doing this thing, or do I want to settle down, or how do I wrap my brain around this? And he said, he was a little bit older, maybe 55 or so, and he said, okay, well, I'll give you some advice if you want it. And I thought, all right, Grandpa, what can you tell me, And he said that you should travel when you can, as much as you can, but you absolutely have to have a home base. If you don't have a place of friends and people that you are building something with, something that's lasting, something that's more than these sort of fleeting kind of adventures or whatever, then it's kind of for nothing. You can't just constantly wander. You have to have some place to go home to. And so it was really wonderful in that moment, in that space, but not really able to put such a fine point on it. He sort of laid it out there pretty simply and surprised me. I was not expecting something, his advice to be so powerful to me. So I took it to heart, and that's what I did for that year. But it was a nice little dipping my toe in it. And then I went back to Antarctica again this last season, and sort of am at the point now where I've kind of had my fill of that, and I'm back in Portland and sort of settling in and doing some of the things that I couldn't do when I was sort of on the move all the time. And it's nice. It definitely is good to sort of have that balance, I think. And it's weird being really excited. For me, it's fun and it's very exciting to just think like, oh, I can't wait to just like go to work Monday through Friday and then come home and then just like hang out and make some dinner and then go to sleep and go to work the next day and then on the weekend go and hang out with friends. And you know, it doesn't sound exciting and it's hard to if that's your all the time, to sort of take that for granted. But it's the little things of meeting up with friends and you know, like helping them paint their room or something like that, or helping them do little things that don't seem like that's much of a deal. So to connect this a little bit, sort of just a little side story of collabs. How much time do I have, Shaners?
Tell your story.
Okay. So I didn't go this past season, and it, you know, some would say it was a good idea, some would say it was not a good idea, but the government shutdown that we all heard about for so long, you sort of think like, oh, who does that really affect? You know, like, I don't really know anybody, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but the government shutdown directly hit the NSF, which directly hit the United States Antarctic Program, and it turned out all of a sudden that was in national news. I was hearing about it on NPR that people were being sent home, and I had friends that got all the way down to Christchurch, New Zealand, and then were sent home, or people that went and got there and they were there for a couple days and then got sent home. And so, you know, it was like this, the government shutdown, the collapse of that was like seriously pulling people out of there, and it was sort of weird hearing about these things about my friends on, you know, sort of like national news, like driving to work, a little update on NPR, which was kind of cool. But they're sort of spooling back up and getting going again, and they're going to try to make the most of this season if they can. So there you have it.
Hang tight. Okay, this one. I'm going to do a little Eli interview here. So, can you hear me, Bookus? Okay. Did you have friends there in Christchurch when the earthquake hit too?
I did. Yep. Yep.
So this random dinner you had with some aunt uncle's friend who was a dentist sort of like shaped your life for the next 6 years, and all these like big world. It's sort of like you know how Forrest Gump was just this guy, but ended up like in all these sort of like historical things.
Yeah, you could say I'm somewhat of a modern day Forrest Gump.
Yeah, you definitely look the part.
I'll take that.
So you didn't talk about the ice much. So what is one thing that would really surprise people that people don't expect?
Well, I would say probably the most surprising thing to people is that on New Year's Eve, that evening, like leading up to the countdown, is an outdoor music festival with probably like 10 or 15 bands of the local community. It's called Ice Stock. And the first of the year is usually the warmest time of the year because it's summertime there. So that's like right smack in the middle. And if it's a sunny day and it's warm and it's like 45 degrees and you can be outside in a t-shirt and it's really quite pleasant.
And what's the coolest thing you ever found in skua? Or tell them what skua is.
Skua is a type of like a seagull, like an Antarctic seagull. They're brown and brutal, and they eat baby penguins and make nests out of rocks. They're so hard. They're so hard. And then there's also they're kind of like just scavengers in a lot of ways, and so there's sort of a free cycle in the United States Antarctic Program that's called skua, where like if you have a sweatshirt you don't care about anymore but it's still decent, there's like drop-off locations around town. You can drop those off, and then they're gathered in a central place, and you can go to that central place, and it's almost like you're kind of going shopping, but sort of thrifting. And you know, the coolest thing I ever found in skua, sort of a tough one. What's that? Oh yeah. So Nate, who just spoke a little bit ago, he has a pretty intense 8-bit Nintendo collection, like basically every title. And I found some weird soap that was like in the shape of an 8-bit Nintendo game. And it was like in one of those black sleeves that they came in, you know. And it even had like a sticker of an actual game. I think, was it Bubble Bobble? Yeah, so it was Bubble Bobble. And it was like this is amazing. And so I held onto it and gave it to him when I got home.
All right, and one last thing. How many times have you been to the South Pole as a part of going to McMurdo?
Just once.
So McMurdo is sort of right on the coast, right?
McMurdo's right on the coast, right by just south of New Zealand, south of Christchurch.
And then how far is the trek to the South Pole by air?
It's about 3 hours. It's about 800 or 900 miles.
Okay. Did you ever go by land?
No, I did not go by land. Just flew. Just flew.
Give us one anecdote about the South Pole. Because it's like this mythical place.
A lot of people think that I go to the South Pole. It's like you go to Antarctica, you're at the South Pole, but the South Pole is its own little pocket. And I'd say one of the strange things about it is that it is at about 10,000 feet elevation, but that's all ice. It's like the land is at sea level, or actually below sea level right there, and there's 2 miles of ice. And that's what makes it a high elevation thing. And so you forget that a lot, and just walking around there, it's like you're at dinner and you get up and you're walking, maybe you go up some stairs and you take 2 or 3 steps, and then you have to stop and hold onto the railing and and just breathe, because you sort of forget that they're at elevation. It's like you look out and it's all just flat. It's just endless, the flat white, as they call it, just the endless straight line of a horizon. So it doesn't feel like you're in mountains or you're at a high place. And so you have to they remind you when you first get there, drink a lot of water and just walk very slowly. And if you drop something, don't immediately bend over to pick it up, because then you'll just fall over and pass out. Yeah, it's like, oh, I dropped that, and it's like, that's it. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Eli Duke.
Thank you.